Missouri government encourages people to report medical professionals offering gender-affirming care. The Transgender Center Concerns Form has gone live on the website of Republican Missouri Attorney General Andrew Bailey, urging residents to submit a complaint or concern about gender transition intervention they have experienced or observed in Missouri. Bailey, who assumed the office of Attorney General in January, has brought in emergency restrictions against gender-affirming care for both minors and adults, which amounts to a near ban. As reported on Sunday, April 16th, trans-Missourians will have to suffer through 3 years of a long-lasting, persistent, and intense pattern of gender dysphoria before obtaining treatment. The restrictions, which is set to take effect on April 27th until February 2024, will also force trans people to undergo 18 months of therapy before receiving gender-affirming care. Trans adults in Missouri will also be checked for social cognition and will have to have checkups for 15 years. The specifics of the restriction labeled in Missouri are believed to be the first of their kind in the U.S. As a protest, the LGBTQ plus allies and trans folk trolled the form, filling it in with responses such as name, Ligma Balls, and saying, quote, too many men are getting gender-affirming care from Viagra. Clearly, God wants them to have a limp dick. End quote. In a joint statement, the ACLU and Lambda Legal accused the Missouri government of playing politics with life-saving medical care. And that's absolutely true. So many studies have come out. The Trevor Project comes out every single year with their study. And they say that, gender-affirming care is key. People that have started this journey 5 years later are feeling better and feeling more closer to their true, authentic self. This just makes me want to vomit.
It's crazy.
Like, just vomit. What are you thinking, Francesca?
From my understanding of it, so they're going to do this assessment of you, and of course they're going to find depression and anxiety, and their goal is to treat the anxiety and the depression before they treat the gender dysmorphia. But the gender dysmorphia causes the anxiety and the depression. So it is going to be virtually impossible to get gender-affirming care. And this scares me because now this is the first state that is doing this. Other states are going to follow suit. Yeah. And just like Florida was the first state to introduce all these laws, this is going to it's going to domino effect into other states, and it's terrifying. I feel that a lot of trans people will go back to the 80s, 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s, and even 90s, where they would have to find
the black market stuff.
Black market estrogen, black market surgeries.
That weren't safe, that a lot of things went wrong. Infections were, very common. And, they'll be right on the same line as women trying to get abortions, okay?
Absolutely.
We'll all be on the same line in an alley somewhere.
Yeah. This is going to fall under that category, though, of equal protection under the law. Because if you're not making cisgendered people go through therapy in order to get procedures done that affect the way that they look.
Breast implants.
Then you cannot enforce that specifically on just one other population. They can pass the law, but I don't think it's going to pass any kind of challenge or muster in a good court. Then again, look at our current courts.
But that's the thing, though. They don't care if it passes muster in a court, because if it passes muster in a court, then it's like, okay, see what we're doing, it's all good. And if it gets thrown out, they go, see, you need to elect more people like us so that we can appoint better judges. It's literally a win-win for them on both sides, no matter how this turns out. There was one thing in the law, when I was first reading this story, I was like, oh, this is good. It was about the 18 months of counseling. Then I read that it was pre-transition. I think all states should offer counseling for trans people to help them go through the transition, to support them, to be there, because it's hard, because so many times people are alone and they go through it virtually alone. Yeah. So I would love to see state-sponsored counseling, just not the type and the angle that they're going for here. And why do you want to keep touching our bodies? Why do you care? Yeah. Quit being our doctor. We choose our doctor, we vote for our politicians, and we don't do them at the same place. My doctor has an office, my election has a polling place.
But John,
I did say election, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
You didn't say
bigger picture, this is also just a test. I don't think that they really care whether it gets challenged or overturned, but just by doing this, they'll figure out how to craft the next state's laws even better to avoid challenges. I think it's the start of a very slippery slope.
And those medical professionals, I feel so awful for them. My wife is constantly, you all know my wife is a medical professional, and unfortunately she's worried about her license, and helping certain LGBTQ plus organizations. And that sucks that she has to even think about that. because that's her livelihood.
Yeah.
I think I was a little bit mixed on this topic when I was reading through it, because like you were saying about the counseling, like I think counseling is a great idea, like if it was going to be practiced in the right way, for them to have 18 months of counseling before, or even 3 months of counseling, some kind of support for them to help them figure out. I particularly thinking about minors, and like that's a huge transition to make during pubescent times, and I'm definitely in favor of having counseling, maybe not to the length of that. And what is entailed in that counseling, I think, is really important. And like you were saying, it could be just this kind of Republican right-wing thing where it's like, oh, we're just going to treat your depression and not actually treat the root cause of what it is.
That we're in favor of it or not in favor of it, I think we're still exhibiting the same problem of thinking that it is our business at all.
It's not.
That doctor and that patient have the relationship that should tell them how to move forward. I know a lot of people who've made transitions, and every one of them had a doctor that required them to go through some counseling, but it was based on that professional evaluation. No outsider should be allowed to make a rule that touches that relationship.
But Cuba is a communist country, right? And they've got this thing that they've always had, right, where you tattle on your neighbors. That's how you get ahead, okay? If you find out that your neighbor did something, you tattle to the person, and then you get an extra bread that week or whatever it is, right? This reminds me of that, right? Then you start tattling on hey, I think that my neighbor's daughter might be trans, and the mom is giving, getting them gender-affirming care. It gives that opening to all those Karens out there that want us to stop breathing, to start putting parents in that place, in that tough spot.
And then they can take the children away.
And then they can take the children away.
And the parents can go to jail.
We're paying for that.
And I think that started last year. Weren't there some parents over on the West Coast that were investigated by Children's Services?
It's unbelievable. Unbelievable. My body, my choice.
LGBTQ plus news is vital for our community and for the broader world as a whole. We have enough enemies at Fox News. Tucker, Sean, and Laura are loud. We need passionate allies. Happening Out television network, Queer News Tonight, and It's Happening Out are literally out of the closet and into the headlines. Our community needs your support. Like this broadcast and subscribe now to ensure the growth of the entire LGBTQ plus community.